actually they call it exactly what the email said, synthetic shares. So in its simplest form, what it is imagine there's two members to the conspiracy. One goes out and buys a big put contract, let's say of 50,000 shares in the aggregate.
Explain to people what a put contract is.
So basically a put contract is where you think the stock is going to go down. You think it's going to decrease in price. And so you are going to, let's say you think it's going to go down to $40 a share, and you'll buy 50,000 shares, but it's for a specific time period. So your put contract is betting that the stock's going to go down. The call is the opposite of that. You think it's going to go up. You then go and purchase that contract, the same contract with the same date, with the same amount of stock. And then ultimately, if you take a put with a call, now you have two ends of the pipe, and you put the pipe together, you got a piece of pipe. In this case, you've got a synthetic share. So ultimately, you can go to the option market, assuming the issuer has options, and then you're able to create that synthetic share. Now, why is it important? Why? Because you can show it to the compliance department to show, look, I have these shares. Let me short. Let me do whatever I want. But what happens is a day or two before the contract matures, because every option contract has a maturity date, that group of perpetrators says, oh, no, we're going to just tear the contract up, until their compliance department comes knocking again and says, oh, you don't have any shares to cover this. Where are the shares? Oh, we have this synthetic share that we created with Goldman and Merrill. And so therefore, ultimately, we're okay. We're in compliance. It is just another scheme of where something fake is created. The amount of fake things that are created, the amount of counterfeit things that are created in this scheme is endless, whether it's fake lending, fake options, fake sales, down the list. It's all fake, except
now,
for the
let me ask you. Did the SEC go after them? Did the Justice Department go after them? Any of them?
No, they did not. In fact, who did the SEC go after? Overstock. But guess what? The good lawyers, not us, because we don't do that kind of work. Their lawyers, I think, here in San Antonio, Bracewell Patterson was my recollection. Whoever, some good firm got that entire thing dismissed by the SEC. And equally as important, I think Patrick Byrne insisted on a no action letter. And ultimately, that no action letter was delivered, is my recollection, from the former general counsel, Mark Griffin, who's a dear friend and a great lawyer, and Jonathan Johnson, who's now president of Overstock, who's a lawyer, were instrumental in getting that no action letter, is my recollection.
Okay, and on to another case where they were using some of these same tactics, and this is the TASER case, TASER as in stun gun. This was filed in Georgia in 20.
A share dividend, you had to redeem your actual share. So we thought we got them, okay? But the problem is the brokers didn't enforce that, okay? They just legended over the shares. The DTC accepted the legend shares, and here we go. So what it required in that case, which the shareholders weren't willing to do, is each shareholder go to his broker and say, hey, I'm going to sue you if you don't turn my share in and get my share dividend. Then it would have worked. It would have worked. But it was missing that link. Why? Because, again, this gets back to a rigged system. Because you don't go to court when you do that, because under every agreement that you sign with your broker, you go to a FINRA arbitration. Now, I don't know if you've been to any of those lately, but it's not exactly friendly to customers who are buying stock, okay?
So this goes into the next question. What rights do shareholders have? Who is ultimately responsible when those rights have been denied?
It's a great question. They have rights to file a class action, and it comes in many forms. Could they file a class action against the brokers? Yes. Could they file a class action against the company for not taking action against the brokers? Yes. If a company has actual knowledge of fraud that's being perpetrated against that company and takes no action, it is an absolute breach of fiduciary duty. So that's number one. Number two, so that's a cause of action against the company for doing nothing. That would be omission. Number two, you could sue the brokers as a class for the commission of doing it, okay? The Harrington case we filed in the Southern District of New York is a large shareholder against the brokers, okay? The very thing I'm speaking of. Or alternatively, I talked about it last time, if it depends on whether it's a direct or derivative cause of action. A derivative action means you put the corporation on notice. Listen, this has happened to us, to the company. You've taken no action. I'm telling you, I've been damaged by this. Other shareholders have been damaged. You need to bring an action against them, or we're going to bring that action. Most state laws will allow you to bring a derivative action depending upon the nature of the claim. And if the company doesn't bring it, you bring it in their name. So there is a vehicle by which shareholders can force the company, in some cases, it's a case-by-case analysis, to take action on your behalf and the other shareholders' behalf.
Now, this is the last question. Actually, there are two questions, but they belong together. Do you believe that this new wave of self-educated retail investors demanding reform in the market is the push we need to fix these major weaknesses in our economy? And the second question, how can APES bring change on the government level to ensure the stock markets and the governing bodies are fair and are for the people instead of for the 1%?
I tell you this, and I told friends ever since this GameStop thing happened, which don't forget, that company's in Grapevine, Texas, about 5 miles from where I grew up. So anyway, the point is, absolutely, this is critical. This group of apes, as they call themselves, need to be proud of what they're doing. They need to grow and grow and grow, and it needs to grow internationally also, because this is not just a U.S. problem. This is a worldwide problem. As I said last time, from trusted resources I know, this is a $250 trillion approximately problem and growing worldwide. What is it in the United States? I hear all kinds of numbers, but at least 100 trillion. Now that counts stocks, bonds, credit default swaps, derivatives, T-bills, for God's sake, that are being counterfeited. This all stems from electronically selling something you don't deliver. So what can you do? You can continue to grow. You can continue to speak out. You can continue to try to co-invest with each other in some legal way to where you can become a bigger bully than they are, for God's sake. Pick out the companies that you think are meritorious and go stand up for them, okay? That's number one. So nobody has ever thought about doing that like you've done. So hoo-ah, as they say, to you men and women who are doing that. Number two, write your congressman, write your senators, send letters to the SEC, get on the internet, educate people, demand transparency, demand change. It is in its very base level, financial reform. It talks about me being, a legal advocate for financial reform. That's a nice way to say I'm sick of this crap and I'm going to stop it. Okay. So the bottom line is that you can be a big part of this. Frankly, what you're doing is mission critical to the cause. Keep it up. Do everything you can, every form of communication, every form of demand, every form that you can legally do it. Challenge the companies that aren't doing something to protect your interest. They owe you duties. They need to be doing something. So at the end of the day, you got to work against the companies that aren't doing anything. You got to work against the regulators who aren't doing anything and demand change. And until that gets to the point to where the people have rebelled long and hard enough, it's not going to change. Frankly, what we're doing is good. It exposes it. And what we're fixing to do, which is build it up and do a much bigger group of cases, that's coming, ladies and gentlemen, is still not going to be big enough. It takes an enormous movement. Why? Because these people, are involved in the Fed. They're involved in the World Bank. They're involved in all of this. So this is what my friends refer to amorphously as the cabal. Okay. we're taking on the cabal. Who is that? Well, you'd have to kill me and shoot me because I really don't know. I know that there are I know who some of them are, I think, but I couldn't prove that in a court of law. I know it exists. It is a group of super elites and super wealthy people that control a lot of the world's economy. I don't know how big they are, who they are necessarily, but I know that they're involved in this, and we need to stop it. We need to demand fairness, honesty, integrity, and justice. This is the land of the free, the home of the brave, justice for all. Never forget that, okay? And I can assure you, this Texas gentleman will not ever forget it.